This is a clip from the Canon podcast. To hear the full episode and get access to exclusive benefits, head over to patreon.com/thecanonpod and sign up for just £3 a month.
There is a forward coming back to Arsenal from a loan spell, which has been very successful. And he is also about to become a bit of a global superstar. We, of course, are talking about Folarin Balogun, who is just committed to the USA national team. And he's coming back to Arsenal, of course. I think his contract expires in 2025. And reports have claimed that he doesn't want to, go on loan again. He wants to start games. And he wants to actually maybe leave Arsenal if he's not going to get at Arsenal. So what do we do now with Folarin Balogun? He's a goal scorer. He scored, I believe, 20 plus goals or so there and thereabouts in Liga. One of the top goal scorers in his first proper year of top 5 European football, which is very, very impressive for a mid-table Reims team as well. So, George, what do we do with Folarin Balogun?
Well, I think, unfortunately, from a football perspective, you're going to selfishly say keep. I mean, that's talent there. And when you look at Folarin Balogun, I've been very high on him. I feel that his ceiling is he's fully capable of starting for a top 6 team eventually as a starting center forward. I think he has that type of talent. The question is, have his exploits meant that he can demand that now and not in 2 or 3 years? I think so. And so when you start talking to me, is he starting over a Gabriel Jesus? I don't think he is. Is he starting over Eddie Nketiah? Arguably. Does he want to accept an Eddie Nketiah role, which, by the way, is going to be, 20 league games across the season? That's still a bit part bench role in a title-competing team. I don't know. Folarin Balogun, to me, who has just changed allegiances to the United States officially, that was pointed. He wants to be the superstar that he believes he is, and to be honest, he is a superstar. So I think he deserves to play individually. I think talent-wise, Arsenal are going to look at that and see an opportunity to kind of move on because they don't feel that he gets in ahead of Gabriel Jesus. And I think in terms of a bench role, that's not something he's willing to accept. And so you're basically going to sell him for his highest value. And I think it's going to be unpopular. I think people are going to say we could have used a little bit of that, particularly when you look at the uncertainties of Reiss Nelson, because Folarin Balogun isn't just a false 9 equivalent. He also has versatility to the left wing. He's a very strong dribbler. He's a very strong physical boy that can hold off challenges, and he is going to be very useful in multiple positions, and he is going to be a superstar. I am just wondering whether or not this Arsenal team have moved past him in a sense where we can't trust him to lead the line for us right now, but at the same token, he's good enough to, if that makes sense. So he has to play for his own good. So I do think that we end up moving him on. We look at him as a sellable asset of pure profit coming from the academy that really supplements the budget from a net zero spend perspective. And we kind of almost keep Eddie Nketiah, and we have the options with Trossard as a false 9 already, by the way, who I see as the Jesus analog down the line, if I'm really being honest with you. And I think Balogun looks at that and says, listen, do I get ahead of Trossard, who they just spent £20 million on, and Gabriel Jesus, who's their big money signing? I don't think so.
I do think, though, him going to the USA is a massive, massive thing in terms of superstar brand deals potential. And if you're at Arsenal and you're a club and you're looking at that, going, this guy could be the next Pulisic type of player, massive in the USA. I'll be weird. I think the Arsenal owners might look at that and go, I want to keep this type of player, because this could be our superstar. With them being obviously US owners as well, they can see the next star coming up there, and they'll see the hype and the potential. And especially with the USA World Cup coming up in 2026, you might have the whole keep Balogun for that kind of sake. But I think Mikel Arteta ultimately will look at his profile and go, Trossard, Jesus, we got those players there. But with Balogun himself, could you not be that goal scorer, that killer striker that Arsenal need? Is he not that type of profile, Alex?
Not for me. I had a look at him a little while ago now. Slightly drifts to the left, so there's a bit of a sort of analog there for Jesus, but he's a different type of player. He's more of a channel runner. He's more of a finisher, box presence, but not in a kind of tall, strong way. It is in a slightly different way. I think basically we've run out of the hedge our bets option. It's kind of stick or twist now. I think either we sell or we integrate him fully and he becomes our starting striker. Because we don't have the loan him out option, with the contract situation. But so I think the America thing is a really, really good shout, and I would flip it on its head and say I think that makes him an even more saleable asset. I think that makes him, he could be the face of the American project. By the way, him choosing to do that is a very interesting testament to his character. He's saying, no, I want to be the guy. I want to be the guy. I don't want to be behind Harry Kane. I want to go to the World Cup, and I want to be the USA. I want to be their starting striker. That tells you about this guy. He's not coming to sit on the sidelines. Then I think realistically, you look at the profile, it's not perfect. So then I go, right, if he's not absolutely perfect, what's the academy for if not to, provide us stars in the way it has done and provide us a lot of talent? Everyone looks at Joe Willock. I don't think anyone thinks Joe Willock is the answer, and everyone thinks everyone got what they wanted. Newcastle got a good player that fits their system. He wouldn't have fitted ours. The only thing I will say, because I would sell him personally, I think his stock's at an all-time high, and I think the US thing makes it only go higher. Next season, when we're struggling for goals, people will go, why didn't we keep Balogun? And you have to remember, we didn't have a choice. It was start him as our main guy, and for me, what we're missing that forward area is physicality, power, inevitability, channel running, which is like close but not quite. It's like 80% of his profile. Something in the air, I think we need. So yeah, that's not quite his profile. And unfortunately, the only other option, we don't have a loan him out or play him for 20 games option. We have to sell him, and I think it's the right option considering everything.
Yeah, that is the crazy thing, because if you look at, previous players that Arsenal have then kept because the fans thought, let's keep him, he might be the player. Easy in and outs. £20 million offer from Wolves, Arsenal fans, he's starting now, let's keep him. And look, a few years later, he's going on a free transfer. And that's how football works. You have to kind of be very wise with your choices, and Balogun might become a superstar, and I think he will become a superstar. But at Arsenal right now, he doesn't quite suit what we need, as you guys keep saying. And I think that USA thing, you're right, is massive, because his value now could also go, look, we've got a superstar here now. If you want to sign him, pay us the superstar money. Mm-hmm. And I think his contract is long enough for us to demand that sort of money as well. And in the current transfer striker market as well, there's not many strikers that have Balogun's potential and record and what he could become. But what do you think, George?
Well, and even just record now. I mean, what does his value go for in League One as one of his top goal scorers? That's a £45 million asset, bankable, like not even a question, right? Like when you look at it and you talk about the potential, I do think that the one reason that we're not keeping Balogun, by the way, too, is that profile similarity. I think that's huge, by the way, because when you talk about a killer, it's something that's nice. When you talk about a channel runner that Alex is talking about, I like that too. When you talk about a ruthless finisher and somewhat of a diva, I will say this, like choosing to be the superstar, he has that arrogance. He has that about him. I like that, by the way. He is a killer. Balogun is a killer. And we do need a killer. The issue that I have is I just think that he's just too similar to some of the options that we spent nigh on 60, 70 million pounds on in the last 12 months. And so when you're looking at that, I think flexibility in profile is the one thing that you can do. I think spending money and allocating it within a squad has to be a smart move. And is it worth giving Balogun a £200,000 a week contract, which is what you would have to do? That's the question that you have to ask, right? Because he's going to ask for Martinelli and Bukayo Saka money, right? To be a starting number 9, that's what he's going to ask for. And is he worth that in your wage space when you've already allocated, I think something, what's Trossard on? Something like a 70,000 a week. And Jesus is already on £200,000 a week. Like, are you saying in your wage bill you're going to add another £200,000 a week, which is maybe nigh on £500,000 a week, guys, on a similar profile within the squad? Something's got to give, and that's excess. That is when you're reaching United territory. So it makes fiscal sense for me to basically make a decision on that and say, listen, we've got the profile. We're not light in the quality in terms of what he offers, but we can use this as excess money and buy something that we don't have.
Yep, and just a final thing on that. There's 2 Champions League semi-finalists, 1 Champions League finalist, who will either have Edin Dzeko up front or Olivier Giroud. There's destinations for him. Thanks for checking out the Canon Podcast. To get full episodes and access to exclusive benefits, head over to patreon.com/thecannonpod and sign up for just £3 a month.